You know that highly specific ripple of gossip that travels through the cubicles when a certain type of company-wide email goes out?
Oh, yeah, everyone knows exactly what you mean.
Right. Someone reads it, leans over the partition, and whispers, "Wait, didn't they quit like 2 years ago?"
Exactly. We are talking about the phenomenon of the boomerang employee today.
The professional who decides to leave the company ventures out into the great unknown and then, seemingly against all logic, comes right back to their old desk.
Yeah, and the immediate assumption, the stigma that attaches itself to that person before they even swipe their badge, is usually pretty harsh.
It really is. The unsaid judgment is always, well, I guess nobody else wanted you.
Right. The narrative almost writes itself in the minds of their coworkers. The assumption is they went out looking for greener pastures, discovered the grass was actually just spray-painted dirt, and came crawling back for safety.
A total retreat, like a failure to launch in the competitive market.
Exactly. It gets framed as stepping backward.
But for you listening today, we are taking that entire narrative and flipping it completely upside down.
We really are.
Because we got our hands on a fascinating piece of source material today. It's an in-depth audio interview with an industry veteran who has actually boomeranged multiple times within the incredibly cutthroat tech sector.
Which is practically unheard of, right?
Well, totally. And our mission for this deep dive is to extract the core insights from their experience. Because based on this insider perspective, stepping back into your old company is not a step backward in your career at all.
Far from it, actually. What we are exploring today is how returning to a former employer is often a highly calculated, aggressive career strategy.
Right.
We are going to break down how to objectively evaluate if going back is genuinely your best career choice. And more importantly, how to negotiate and forcefully demonstrate your newly acquired value.
So you don't just slip right back into your old routine and your old pay grade.
Exactly. You have to prove your worth.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because to dismantle this myth of the failed boomerang employee, we have to look at the underlying motivations first.
The why.
Exactly, the why. Before we get into the mechanics of negotiating a triumphant return, why would a highly ambitious, top-performing professional actively choose to go back to a place they previously decided wasn't good enough for them?
Well, it seems counterintuitive until you look at the economics and, the daily reality of the workplace. The source material highlights that for top-tier talent, a return offer is rarely a last resort.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is typically a deliberate choice weighed against multiple competing offers from other firms. There is this massive hidden advantage to returning, and it basically comes down to zero friction.
Right, because you already know the lay of the land.
Exactly. You totally bypass that typical 6-month onboarding phase where you are just trying to understand the internal workflows, the unwritten rules, or even who to CC on a project update.
The time to value is virtually instantaneous.
Instantaneous. And because of that familiarity, you have the ability to rack up what the veteran calls battle merits right away.
Battle merits, I like that.
Yeah. If a company is reaching out to bring you back, they usually have an urgent bleeding wound they need patched.
They are desperate.
Right. And because you already know the internal systems, you can drop into the middle of the chaos and immediately start putting out fires. You offer an immediate return on their investment.
So here's where it gets really interesting to me, specifically regarding that investment.
Okay.
You would think a company would try to lowball a returning employee, right?
Yeah.
Assuming they are desperate.
Yeah, that's the standard assumption.
But the source indicates the exact opposite. Tech companies, or really any firm in a highly competitive market, will offer aggressive incentives, like better salary, upgraded benefits, just to get proven talent back.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it is fundamentally about risk mitigation for them. Hiring a new employee is a massive financial gamble.
Oh, totally. A huge unknown.
Right. They might have a great resume, but they could be a cultural nightmare, or they might just lack the actual execution skills they claim to have in the interview.
Right, whereas with a boomerang employee, that hiring risk drops to near zero.
Exactly. The company knows your work ethic. They know how you handle stress. They are willing to pay a heavy premium to eliminate the uncertainty of a bad hire.
So you have the efficiency, the immediate impact, and the premium compensation.
But there is also a deeply psychological layer to this, I think.
Oh, so?
When you return, you aren't guessing what value you bring to the table. You already know their weak spots. You know exactly how your specific skills solve their chronic problem.
Oh, definitely. You have the inside scoop.
You are stepping onto a secure foundation to tackle elevated challenges. It reminds me of a concept in gaming.
Oh, here we go.
Hear me out. It's kind of like replaying a video game you've already beaten, but this time you get to start with all the high-level gear and unlocked skills.
Ah, I see what you mean. Right. The map is exactly the same, but your power level is totally different. The boss that took you weeks to beat on level 1, you get obliterated in 3 seconds now.
The New Game Plus dynamic. Yeah, that's actually a perfect way to visualize it. You are operating in a known environment, but with upgraded capabilities.
But let me push back on this for a second, because human nature is a massive variable here. Humans are creatures of habit.
True.
Doesn't all this cozy familiarity just breed complacency?
Yeah.
I mean, you go back, you get the pay bump, you know the map, you know the people, and within 2 weeks, you are hitting the snooze button, dreading the exact same boring meetings that drove you crazy enough to quit the first time.
It feels like a psychological trap, doesn't it?
It really does.
Well, what's fascinating here is how the veteran's experience counters that exact trap through a concept they call the 10x speed learning era.
10x speed learning.
Yeah. In fast-moving industries, technology, methodologies, and management styles iterate at a blistering pace. Working outside your original company for just 1 year can expose you to the equivalent of 5 or 6 years of internal experience.
Oh, wow. So time moves differently on the outside.
Exactly. You aren't returning to settle into a comfortable chair. You are bringing a massive external upgrade back to a baseline that has likely stagnated.
That makes a lot of sense. You've essentially downloaded a massive software update into your brain while they were still running the old operating system.
Yes. You are injecting entirely new corporate DNA into the old body.
Right, right.
You've seen how a competitor solves the exact same problems. You've learned new workflows, different tools, different cultural norms. That external perspective makes it nearly impossible to fall into complacency.
Because you are now a disruptor. You can see the inefficiencies they are blind to.
Exactly.
But that raises a major issue for me. If you are this newly upgraded 10x version of yourself, how do you know the company actually deserves the new you?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because you left for a reason, right? There was historical baggage, maybe a toxic culture, a broken promotion track, or just a micromanager.
Yeah, the classic reasons people quit.
You don't want to step back into a burning building just because you know where the fire extinguishers are.
No, you definitely don't. And this is the most crucial assessment phase. The source is adamant that you have to brutally interrogate the opportunity before accepting.
Interrogate the opportunity. I love that phrasing.
Yeah, you have to administer a historical baggage test. You cannot let the flattering offer blind you to the reality of the organization.
Because they will flatter you. They want you back.
Absolutely. So it requires asking very uncomfortable questions about why the door is suddenly open for your return.
Let's explore the mechanics of that assessment. So first, you have to figure out the true nature of their desperation.
Right. The source insists you must ask 3 crucial questions. Number 1, why do they need you?
Are you walking into a general headcount shortage where they just need a warm body to manage a spreadsheet? Or are you walking into a raging crisis that only your specific esoteric skill set can solve?
Exactly. The leverage shifts entirely based on the answer to that.
Right.
Which brings us to the second question. Are you irreplaceable? If it is a general shortage, your leverage is incredibly low and you will be treated as expendable.
But if they are calling you because you possess a highly technical capability that is impossible to substitute in the current market, your leverage is absolute.
Yes, absolute leverage. It determines whether you are being hired for your upgraded expertise or simply for their convenience.
Because companies are highly motivated by efficiency, right? They might just want you because you are a low-risk, low-training hire.
Exactly.
You already know the passwords. You know the internal politics. You don't need a welcome packet.
You just show up and start typing.
Right. So how do you actually test if they want you for your 10x brain? Or if they just want the convenience of not having to train a stranger?
It comes down to the third question. Has anything actually changed? You need to identify true empowerment versus mere employment.
Empowerment versus employment.
Are they willing to give you the authority to enact systemic change, or do they just want you to sit quietly and process the work faster?
And the source provides a very telling anecdote about this distinction, don't they?
Yes, a great one. The veteran returned to his former tech company, but he negotiated to bring an entire external team with him to develop cutting-edge Wi-Fi products.
He didn't just come back, he brought his own squad. That completely changes the dynamic.
It is a profound shift in power. But the defining detail is how his supervisor handled that return. The supervisor fully delegated power, allowing the veteran to act as a locomotive.
A locomotive, pulling this new external team and integrating them with the existing internal teams.
Exactly. The supervisor didn't micromanage the integration. They gave him a mandate and basically got out of his way. That is the ultimate proof of being hired for expertise. He was empowered to be the engine of change, not just a passenger in the same old train car.
So if they aren't offering you the controls to the locomotive, it's a giant red flag.
A massive red flag.
But what if the toxic middle manager who made your life miserable is still sitting in the exact same office? Does coming back as the locomotive actually neutralize the old historical baggage?
It can, provided you have a top-down mandate. If you have the explicit backing of upper management to restructure processes or bypass that toxic layer, the old problems lose their teeth.
Okay, that makes sense.
However, you have to be ruthlessly honest with yourself about whether you actually hold that power. Assuming things will magically be better just because you have a slightly higher title is a recipe for disaster. Hope is not a career strategy.
Hope is definitely not a strategy. Okay, so let's say you do the math. You interrogate the company, you confirm they genuinely need your specific skills. You secure the locomotive mandate. Check. And the old historical problems are either gone or you have the authority to crush them. The external opportunity is flawless.
Sounds perfect.
But now you have to deal with the internal psychology of the people you are actually going to be working with every day.
Yeah, and this is arguably the most dangerous minefield. It's where a lot of returning employees fail.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They manage the external negotiation perfectly, but completely ignore the cognitive biases of their former colleagues. The source material zeroes in on this as the label problem.
The label problem.
Yeah.
I love this concept because it really speaks to how cognitively lazy human beings are.
We really are.
It's like your old colleagues have a cached version of your profile stored in their brains.
Yeah.
Out in the real world, you've updated your software, you've acquired all these new skills, you are a completely different professional.
Exactly.
But when you walk back into that office, they don't see the update. They are still loading the old junior version of you from 3 years ago.
The cache metaphor is spot on. They are anchoring their perception of you to past data.
Right?
They see your shiny new director title and your highly negotiated compensation package, and they judge it against their memory of the person who used to, struggle with basic quarterly reports.
That's so unfair, but so true.
And if you stumble even slightly in those first 30 days, that anchoring bias kicks in instantly.
The whispers start again.
Yep. Why did we even bring them back? They haven't changed at all. What a waste of budget.
You are actively fighting a ghost of yourself.
Exactly.
So how do you force a hard refresh on their mental cache?
Yeah.
How do you negotiate your value so they see the 10x upgrade on day one?
Well, the source provides a framework for this personal negotiation. It requires a highly structured personal audit before you ever sit down at the negotiation table.
Okay, so you can't just wing it.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
You cannot just walk in and say, hey, I have more experience now, pay me.
Right, that never works.
Yeah. You need to ask yourself 3 crucial self-evaluation questions. First, you must inventory your new skills. You need a granular, documented inventory of the exact new abilities, systems, and concrete business results you have accumulated outside.
And you must tie every single one of those external upgrades directly to the company's current core problems, right?
Exactly. You are positioning your external growth as the exact key to their current lock.
And it really matters what kind of lock you're trying to open, which I think brings us to the second question, identifying role criticality.
Yes. You have to look objectively at the role itself. Are you stepping into a critical path, meaning a role that directly drives revenue, opens new markets, or solves an existential threat to the business?
Right, versus stepping into a back-end support role.
Exactly that distinction. Because if you are stepping into a core revenue path, your leverage to force that cash refresh is massive. Your impact is highly visible and quantifiable.
But if you allow yourself to be placed into a back-end support role or a cost center, your leverage just evaporates.
It completely vanishes. The organization will quickly view you as expendable again, regardless of how much you learned on the outside.
And that ties into the third point,
Yeah.
assessing your bargaining chips.
Right. What leverage do you have to actually demand your target salary and title? Like being in a hot market, such as the Wi-Fi tech example from earlier.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the concept of loyalty? Let's play this out in the real world.
Let's do it.
You leave, you level up your skills, you come back, you use your market knowledge as a heavy bargaining chip, you extract a huge salary bump and a locomotive title.
Sounds like a big win.
It does. But if I'm the CEO, or even just a coworker sitting next to you, I'm looking at you like a mercenary.
Hmm.
I'm thinking, sure, they're back now because we paid up, but the second a competitor offers them 5% more, they'll vanish again.
Yeah, they'll just bounce.
Exactly. How do you survive that inherent suspicion?
Well, this raises an important question about organizational behavior. The loyalty risk is a permanent shadow for the Boomerang employee.
A permanent shadow.
Yeah. You cannot debate your way out of it, and HR cannot send a magical email that makes people trust you. The veteran from the source material is very clear on the antidote here.
Which is?
Undeniable, immediate performance.
Wow.
You have to deliver those battle merits so quickly and so effectively that you basically silence the critics with sheer revenue, making clients happy, ensuring project success, driving profits.
The old corporate truth, right? Driving measurable profit makes a lot of office politics disappear.
It really does. But, and this is a big but, raw performance alone can actually backfire if it's paired with arrogance.
Nobody likes a show-off.
Exactly. If you come in acting like a corporate shark, the savior who graced them with your return, the organizational body will reject you like an incompatible organ transplant.
That sounds messy.
It is. This is where the source introduces a profound secondary requirement, the attitude of altruism. The term used in the interview is lita.
Lita.
Yes, which roughly translates to acting for the benefit of others.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there. Altruism. We just spent 20 minutes dissecting how to ruthlessly evaluate a company's weaknesses, leverage market forces, and extract maximum compensation.
Yeah, I know it sounds contradictory.
How does playing the corporate shark coexist with altruism?
They're actually two sides of the same strategic coin. Think of it as strategic altruism. You negotiated hard for your value, yes. But once you are inside, your primary objective is to make the people around you incredibly successful.
Oh, I see.
You don't hoard the 10x external knowledge you acquired, you freely distribute it to elevate the existing team's game. You use your locomotive power to clear roadblocks for your peers. You make your boss look brilliant to their superiors.
Right. So by helping everyone else hit their KPIs, you basically create a political shield for yourself.
Exactly. You become the rising tide that lifts all the boats in the harbor. They can't resent your high salary if your presence basically guarantees their own quarterly bonuses.
That is brilliant. You prove your loyalty not through, lip service to a company mission statement, but by tangibly improving the daily lives and success rates of the people in your department.
Precisely. You make yourself structurally indispensable. But the source throws in a massive non-negotiable caveat to this entire playbook.
Oh, what's the catch?
None of this, not the negotiation, the locomotive mandate, the strategic altruism, literally none of it is remotely possible if you left a stinking reputation the first time around.
Right. If you burn the bridge on your way out the door, threw a grenade at your manager and salted the earth, no amount of external skill upgrading is going to save you.
Exactly. The foundational requirement for a boomerang strategy to even exist is that you were highly respected, if not universally liked, when you left.
Your past performance is the only reason the door remains unlocked.
Right. If the existing team shudders at the thought of working with you again, HR will never make the call, regardless of how desperate they are.
Wow. This completely reframes the entire concept of the Boomerang employee for me.
It's a huge paradigm shift.
Let's pull all these threads together. We started with the stigma, right? The whispers that returning to an old job means you failed to survive in the wild.
Yeah, the retreat narrative.
But we've seen that when executed by top talent, it is the exact opposite. Returning is an exercise in holding the power.
It is entirely about controlling your own career narrative.
Right. It's about objectively evaluating the historical flaws of the company, recognizing your leverage in an asymmetric hiring market, and ensuring you are stepping into an empowered role, not just acting as a convenient headcount filler.
And of course, forcing a hard refresh on the old label people have stuck on you by using your massive external growth to drive undeniable, immediate results.
Exactly.
And for you listening, it is vital to remember that a boomerang move is just one piece on the chessboard. It's one option on the table.
Right. You don't have to take it.
Exactly. The ultimate value of this interrogation process, the historical baggage test, the audit of your own skills, is that it clarifies your true market value. You might do all this deep analysis and realize, actually, returning to this company is a terrible strategic move for me right now. And that is a massive victory because you avoided a trap while the control remained firmly in your hand.
You always hold the cards if you know how to read the board.
Very true.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder regarding your own career trajectory. We talked at the very beginning about that office gossip, the assumptions people make when the Boomerang employee walks back in.
Yep.
Imagine this scenario for yourself. If you were to walk back into your previous company's lobby tomorrow morning, would the receptionist, your old manager, your former peers, would they just see the exact same person who packed up their desk years ago?
That's the real question.
Right. Or would they be forced to recognize a completely transformed high-value competitor they'd be incredibly lucky to hire? Think deeply about what your personal 10x upgrade actually looks like right now.
And more importantly, how exactly would you prove it to them before lunch on day one?